Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and we're here for another Sunday sew-along. We are starting a new sew-along today and that is McCall's 5894. Make sure I got that right. Got the pattern here with me, but I'll pop a picture up here so you can see that. So it's a pair of jeans. Okay, now before we get started, today we're going to talk about supplies that we're going to need. We're going to talk about our fabric, and then I'm going to go over and do a muslin for you and kind of show you, I haven't actually put it together yet, so show you though the fitting that I am planning on doing to my pattern that will hopefully help many of you. Now, I'm going to make a little caveat on fitting. I typically don't have a ton of fitting issues with pants. It's just my fitting issues almost always happen above the waist for me. I'm just a lot harder to fit above the waist. I'm usually a much different size above the waist than I am below the waist. I'm usually a smaller size below the waist. I'm like flip-flop from most females, but anyway. So I just don't have a ton usually of fitting issues because even though I'm short, my length is in my lower half of my body. I have a very short torso. So even like the rise and stuff, I don't typically have to play around with that much. So I'm not entirely sure. Again, I haven't made it yet, so maybe it will be, maybe it'll be a mess and you'll get to learn a lot. But I did pick the pattern that I picked because it is a Palmer Pletch pattern, so it has all of the tissue fitting lines and all that kind of stuff on there. Now, I am not a tissue fitting specialist. I've not been trained in that, so I'm not even going to attempt, I would be doing a great injustice to everyone by attempting to do any of the tissue fitting. There are actual trained people that are trained tissue fitters, and you can find that someone maybe local to you on Palmer Pletch's site. My friend Evelyn is one here, and yeah, it's a great thing. It's just not something that I can show you guys how to do. So definitely look into that if that is something that you think that you might need or be interested in. But that is why I'm using the Palmer Pletch pattern. It's designed to be fit and kind of fit as you go, and there's some very good instructions on the inside of the pattern on some common fit issues that people have, like as a flat rear end. There's a few other things that they show you how to fix that if that's something, and what it looks like if that's something that you need. Also, Heather Lou from Closet Core Patterns has a wonderful jean fitting ebook. I actually bought it when I bought the ginger jeans, the first time I made jeans, and thought that that might be something good. It has a ton of pictures of fitting issues and then how to fix them. So that's definitely a fantastic resource. I'm also going to link down below. Karina from Lifting Pins and Needles recently did a pant fitting series on her YouTube channel, so I'm going to link to that, as well as Michelle Wynn on Instagram. She is, and I believe she's in school right now, actually, pattern cutting or pattern drafting school, or has been. Anyway, she's very knowledgeable. She has a highlight on her story. So if you're on someone's Instagram page, down below their picture in their bio, there'll be like little circles. Those are their Instagram story highlights, which are like the stories that they've saved. And she has one there on how she measures. She basically has a template that shows where her her front extension and her rise, front rise, and it's a like an L-shaped cardboard piece that then she shows you how she measures that on herself to come up with her points, and then how she uses that on a pattern to then just right off the bat be able to adjust how long an extension, the crotch extension is on the front and the back for her body and all that kind of stuff. It's just very fascinating, and if that's something that you really want to look more into, I will leave a link to her Instagram page as well, because again, she has all of that. She's done, I mean, she's very knowledgeable, and so it's a lot of good. And I also, this is a sew-along, so and it's also hard for me because I can't fit every single one of you. As wonderful as that would be to be able to help you diagnose fit issues, so I'm just trying to give you other resources that might be helpful in diagnosing and fitting yourself, because I know that can be a very frustrating. It can be extremely frustrating, but I'm also going to suggest that just dive in and do it. Jeans are hard too, because typically muslin, you're using a thinner cotton or something along those lines, old sheets, that kind of thing, which makes it really hard to get, because denim is so much heavier. Even non-stretch denim is going to fit differently, and you aren't going to see pull lines that you're going to see in a thinner cotton that you would be making a muslin with, if that makes sense. So it hides a lot of sins, basically, keeps things sucked in, and you want your jeans fitted. So we're gonna talk about fabric here in a little bit. Anyway, I am gonna make a muslin out of some old sheets and show you kind of some things that I might want to do to mine, because there are a few alterations that really need to be done before things are cut out. But there's also a lot of fitting on the fly you can do with jeans too. And again, it's just about practice. And I know that that's frustrating, but there really is nothing. It's like learning a language, you know, like immersing yourself. Like moving to France is like the best way to learn French. Same type of thing. You just got to do it. You've just got to get into it and try a whole bunch of different fitting things and find out what works for you. I also want to say with the tissue fitting that Melissa Watson and Patty Palmer have some tissue fitting classes on Craftsy. So if you do have a membership to Craftsy, they've got one on pants actually specifically, to where you could easily follow along with that class with this pattern and kind of get a lot of your fit issues. You know, they walk through a whole bunch of different ones in that class. And they also have a book, what is it? Real Pants, what is their books called? It's like Fit for Real People is their big one, but this is like Pants for Real People or whatever. I'll leave a link to the book below, which also might be a good one for you to check into as well. But that's kind of why I went with the Palmer Pletch pattern. I will say, in my experience, now I have not made this pattern up yet, so I can't speak to this one, but typically the indie patterns are better fitting patterns. I mean, I've just had a lot of luck with all of the indie jean patterns that I've made. Now I can't do sew-alongs on any of those, mostly because those companies have their own sew-alongs, their own information they've put out. Closet Core Patterns has a whole jean making class that you can buy and go through the whole thing on their website. So I have to stick to the big four for the most part with sew-alongs, although I am going to check with a few indie patterns here soon to see if I could do a few of theirs. But I did have luck with the Mimi G pattern, their Simplicity Mimi G pattern. It's a really good one, but she has a whole thing on her, Mimi G has a whole thing sew along on her YouTube channel and on Simplicities on how to sew those jeans. So sticking with just the ones that, you know, don't, so I'm not stepping on any toes, but that is why I chose this pattern, because there is a lot of help with that. Okay, let's talk about fabric. And I'm just kind of, I mean, I've made so many jeans. I want to talk a little bit too that really no matter what jeans pattern you're using, that's what's weird about this. They don't use rivets in this pattern. We're going to use rivets. No matter what jean pattern you're using, these are all kind of, I mean, once you've made one pair of jeans, they vary slightly, you know, like maybe a different shaped, you know, coin pocket, or, you know, is the fly grown on? Is it cut on? Those kind of differences. But for the most part, a pair of jeans is a pair of jeans. You can kind of, you know, once you've made a few, you can almost make them in your sleep. They're not hard, which hopefully you will find out here soon. But let's talk about fabric. So this pattern says that it's for wovens, but it also says you can use a stretch woven. Now, my rule of thumb for that is, if you are using a pattern that is for both woven and stretch woven fabric, if you're going to use a stretch, you need to use, especially with the denim, you need to use it's fine if you use a denim with stretch, just make sure it's not too stretchy. There are a lot of really stretchy denims out there, which are fantastic for, you know, Itch to Stitch has the Mountain View pull-on jeans. I've used a very stretchy denim on that. It's fantastic because it has to be able to pull up over your hips. I mean, even the ginger jeans, you're only using minimal stretch because they recommend, I think, 1 to 2% Lycra, which is what I would recommend for if you're, you know, going with a stretch denim for this pattern. But yeah, like the Itch to Stitch Liana stretch jeans, I think it wants 15 to 20% stretch on those. I mean, that's a pretty stretchy denim, and there's some great ones, and they're very, very comfortable. So yeah, so there's definitely patterns that are meant for stretchy denim. Now, if the pattern is for regular wovens or for stretch, that's going to be too stretchy, and you're going to end up with a pair of jeans that don't fit like how they're supposed to. They're just going to be bigger than you probably want. So you can use a stretch denim, but I would use one with very little, just very little stretch, maybe 10%. So yeah, look for something with like 1 to 2% Lycra in it. That's probably about as much. So it'll give you a little give, but not so much that it makes it too big, if that makes sense. I'm going to be using a rigid denim, so that means a denim without stretch. Now, you can buy denim almost anywhere. The key features what I love about non-stretch denim. Now, your stretchy denim, even with a little bit of Lycra in it, is very comfortable, and I can definitely see the benefits. In fact, I'm wearing a pair of Leona stretch jeans right now that have stretch in my denim. Very comfortable. So yes, that's definitely a very great thing. However, denim that does not have any Lycra in it, that is 100% cotton, that is going to be my only requirement. You get stuff with polyester in there, it just doesn't wear quite as well. But if you get denim with 100% cotton, over time, it molds to your body and they get perfect. So when you think about like Levi's and gosh, like Wrangler jeans, all of those are not fancy denims. Like those are just your 100% cotton denim. Case in point, this is some cotton denim that I bought up at Zink's Fabric, which is an Amish store. It's just 100% cotton. Obviously I've washed it. These are for my daughter's jeans. They're in a nice indigo color. I paid $5 a yard for it, nothing expensive. I've made her in a little bit like a medium blue pair of Dawn jeans from Megan Nielsen, which are meant for a non-stretch denim. And it looks great. And these are gonna be jeans that just eventually mold to her body and just fit well, really, really well. So yeah, you don't have to spend a lot for the fancy denim. And these work fantastic for, now this is for her, so I can't use this, but for another pair of Dawn jeans for her. But yes, you can definitely use, it does not have to be expensive denim. I would just say find 100% cotton. It just wears better. And it'll fade over time in all the right spots, you know, at the knee, at the butt. You'll get that, you know, after it's been washed a few times where it starts to fade. It just gets that real beautiful patina. Now this fabric is I got it from Blackbird Fabrics, and it is Cone Mills denim, which is kind of, I'm sure you guys, if you've been around the social media and sewing for a while, know that it's kind of the top of the top for denim. And as you can see, it just has some variation in the color. It's very beautiful. It has a very smooth finish. It is 100% cotton. It has a really beautiful selvage. So, I mean, I know that there's people that you know, live and die by, you know, the higher end denims. You know, there's definitely denim connoisseurs. I mean, there's a whole, like, you know, the people that never wash their jeans, they just stick them in the freezer to kill whatever. I am not of that camp. Number one, I'm way too messy. Things have to be washed. But yes, I am going to be using this. This is a Cone Mills denim. I've had it in my stash for a while. And I think I might want a skirt out of it too eventually. And I believe I bought this in a pack when Blackbird was doing, like, every now and again they would do a call out and you could buy like a pre-order, but I feel like I didn't get to choose what. I think I felt like it was just like, or maybe I got it from Closet Core Patterns when they were doing one of those. Anyway, that may have been it, when she was selling denim kits, which then would have included I think it included enough to make 2 pairs of jeans. So like 2 hardware kits, 2 cuts of denim, but I think you get 2.5 yards or meters, or maybe 2. Anyway, the amount of fabric you were given is way more than I need to make a pair of jeans because I'm so short. So I can usually get another something out of this. Not a lot, but like a jean skirt, probably. So I'm gonna be using this fabric, but again, you can find, as long as it's 100% cotton, you know, if you do have some stretch in it, just make sure it's not a lot. But yeah. You can find them at Joann's. You can find it pretty much anywhere where fabric is sold. Almost everyone's got denim now, so it doesn't have to be fancy. You can very easily go with, you know, just 100% cotton denim. All right, other thing that's needed. This pattern actually has a cut on fly, which means the fly piece is separate from the front of the jeans. So the crotch curve just goes out as opposed to the crotch curve going and then going back in, which would be a grown on fly. I prefer the grown on fly. It's just less bulk. You have less seams and everything. I don't know. It just makes, I don't know why you wouldn't do it, to be honest. So anyway, so we're going to be creating a grown on fly on this jeans pattern. So we'll be doing that. And it's a very easy thing to do. And I'll be showing you well, I mean, I guess you could. You could make this, I'll be making a zip fly on mine, but you can definitely do a hidden button placket or an exposed button fly. And actually I have tutorials on how to sew those, both of those already on the channel. Actually I have one for a zipper fly too, but I'll be doing that through this video as well. But anyway, you could do that. It really is the same pieces, like, and they're very easy to like redraft your own, just on what's given, on what the pieces that are given. This pattern does recommend interfacing your waistband. I never interface my jean waistbands because any jeans that you go to, high-end, whatever, I've opened up a lot of pairs of jeans. They never have interfacing in the waistband except at the buttonhole and the button at the front. That is it. Now, I do use interfacing for the fly. So I will be making an interfaced piece to put on that grown-in fly that I'm gonna be making, and we'll do that over at the cutting table. But I will be putting a piece of interfacing in there, but that's the only interfacing I put in my jeans, is just right there at the fly. That's it. And I'm gonna be using the Perfect Fuse Medium by Palmer Pletch. Now to keep my waistband, especially if you're using something with a little bit of stretch, I sew in twill tape into the top of the seam allowance of the waistband. This is cotton twill tape. I'll leave a link down to it below. Mine came from Wawac. This was a gigantic spool at one point, and it has just gotten smaller and smaller, but it's lasted me forever. It's 1/4 inch wide cotton twill tape. It is in, I use that in my stretch jeans and, except for my pull-on jeans. Pull-on jeans obviously have to stretch so much in the waist to get them on. I actually put elastic in the top of that. But I have on a pair of Liana stretch jeans right now by Itch to Stitch. It's a stretchy denim. And I put the twill tape in the top of the waistband, and it keeps my pants up because I have that issue with my pants falling down. All right, the other thing obviously you're gonna need are zippers and jean buttons and rivets. We're gonna be putting rivets in. Now you can buy jeans hardware kits. This is actually a button fly one, but you can get them from Closet Core Patterns, and they usually come with everything that you need, you know, the rivets, the buttons, or a zipper if it's a zipper fly kit, and usually a couple of denim needles as well in there. Or you can, I will link to Closet Core because she's got some right now. Also Style Maker has jeans kits as well, both the button and the zip fly. Or you can just buy jeans buttons and rivets at Wawac and a jean zipper. It's just a little easier to get the kit just because everything is there. And usually they give you extras, and you know, like an extra button and extra rivets for you to practice on because those can be kind of tricky. So there you have it. Oh, I forgot to get, so for my jeans I'm going to be sewing them up with regular Gutermann Mara 100 thread, but for the top stitching I am going to be using a top stitching thread, and I forgot to grab that. Hold on one second. Okay. I actually have 3 different colors. I have like kind of a coppery brown color. This is kind of, well, I would say this is like a brown, and then a copper, and then like a gold. This is kind of maybe your more traditional. This is Gutermann 30, Gutermann Mara 30. And it's 100% polyester. It's like super thick. You can see how thick that is. And it's just top stitching thread. So when we switch over to top stitching our seams, I haven't decided what color I'm going to use yet, but I do have 3 colors here. Ooh. And you use this in the top, and then you just use your regular, I'll be using like a navy blue thread in the bobbin, like my Mara 100. Anyway, and it makes some beautiful top stitching. So you will need some of that, and I'll leave that linked down below as well. And I think that's it. That will get us going. So I'm going to take you now over to the cutting table and show you, number 1, what pieces you need to cut out for muslin if that is something you want to do. And then also how I'm going to merge my fly piece onto the front of my pants so that I can cut that out as a grown-on fly as opposed to having a separate piece, just to help reduce bulk in the seam, with the seam allowance. Then I'll show you my muslin, kind of talk about what I'm going to do to it, and yeah, we'll be done for today. This is kind of a long one. All right, that's all I have. As always, leave any questions you have down below, and then next week we'll get sewing. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have and would like to support the channel, I do have a Ko-fi account, which is linked down below, which is like a virtual tip jar. So if you did enjoy it and would like to help support, you know, the supplies and everything else that goes into being able to make these videos, it'd be much appreciated. It all goes right back into the channel, and that again is linked down below. Okay guys, I'm going to leave you now and take you over to the cutting table, and I will see you next week. Okay, let's talk about our pieces really quickly. There are two views for this pattern. There's a view A and a view B, and the only difference between the two is the leg. So I think let's see, I'm doing view, what am I doing? View B. I think view A has a little bit wider leg from what I could tell. So I'm doing view B, which is not a skinny leg. It's like a straighter leg, almost a boot cut a little bit, I guess. All right, so you've got your, so those are the only differences in the views, or the front and the back of view A or view B, and then again, that's just the leg. I've got front and back. I've got, this is the pocket or the side front, kind of like the pocket facing. You've got a yoke. You've got your back pocket. You have your, oh, I guess they call this the pocket facing. So this is the back part. You'll see what this part is. And here's the actual pocket that goes inside the pant. You've got the fly. You've got the coin pocket. You've got the belt loops. You have the, this is kind of the fly shield. And then your waistband. All right, so I'm going to do a muslin so that I can show you fitting right now. However, because I'm using old sheets that are from my own bed, actually, that got holes in them, had to get replaced, so they're going to become muslin fodder. But actually, these aren't going to be nearly as thick and as sucky-any as the denim. And I'm using a non-stretch denim, but definitely if you're using a stretch denim, the muslin's going to fit a little, it's going to be, you want it tighter than you would wear if you were actually making the pants out of muslin, if that makes sense. So the beauty of this pattern, because it is a palmer pledge pattern, is that there are fitting instructions as we're sewing. So we will be able to adjust how tight it's fitting the body. So we're not going to worry about that too much. Obviously, we don't want them too tight. It's better for them to be too big in the muslin, and then we can take them in once they are regular fabric to the degree that we want to. So that's what I want to say. I've not made any adjustments to this pattern yet. I know I'm going to have to shorten the legs. They look really long, but I don't know how much I want to shorten them. So I'm just going to leave them as is, and we'll determine that in the muslin stage. So for the muslin, I'm going to need the waistband piece. I do not need the fly shield. I do not need the the belt loops. I'm not going to use the, this is the fly facing. So this jeans has a sewn-on fly, which is not my favorite. Now, I think the reason that they did the sew-on fly is that it makes it easier. You know, this is a palmer pledge pattern, so it makes it a lot easier to do any adjustments without the fly on there, and then obviously it gets sewn on at the end. I'm actually going to cut mine on, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a little bit. But yeah, if you're having to make a lot of adjustments, we'll do that in the actual fabric stage, not at the muslin stage. But you don't need this piece for the muslin. That's fine. That's not needed because we're not putting a zipper in the muslin. You don't need the pockets. You don't need this pocket piece. You do need the yoke, and you do need this piece, which is the back part. So I'm going to put these other ones aside. But I also just wanted to show you really quickly, to make the muslin as quick as possible, you will have to cut out your yoke per normal. But when you're sewing your front piece here, let's move these other ones out of the way real quick so that you can easily see. There's no need to have to sew the pockets and all that jazz. You can actually cut out this piece because when this is all said and done, this is behind here. So if you just lay this underneath, actually, let's do this all right side up. It just makes life easier. Okay, so if we match our notches here at the side and our circle right up here, we can cut this front piece out as one and not have to mess with the pocket, and it will still give us for fitting purposes. So that's what I'm going to do for cutting out my muslin. You just want to line up your circles and your notches. I'm just going to set pattern weights on top of there. I'm not going to tape it down or anything. Just set the pattern weights on top of there to keep it nice and flat. And that's how we're going to cut that out. Now, when we are all finished with our adjustments, and I'm cutting this out of fabric, that's the back. We still don't care about the back. I'm going to do the same thing with the front. I mean, obviously, I'll be cutting out the pockets for the final one. But when I'm cutting out my front piece, instead of cutting this out separately, this fly facing, I want a grown-on fly. So I'm going to, again, you've got seam allowances. You can draw your seam allowances in if you want to. They're actually already drawn in for you on the center front here, but you can do that here. But if you match your dot there and keep that equal all the way up, again, you can measure to be sure. You can, again, just put pattern weights down, and that's how I'm going to cut out my front in the fashion fabric. I'm just going to cut around, so then that will give me a grown-on fly. It's just less bulk, but you may want to wait and do that after you've made any adjustments that you need to make to your rise. So those are just some kind of tricks. Now, you could totally tape this down if you wanted to, but we're actually going to use this piece for our interfacing. So, you know, it's just kind of up to you. So that when I get to the, I'm not going to mess with it for the muslin because we just don't need it for the muslin. But for my fashion fabric, I am going to, once I've made all my adjustments to the pattern, I am going to just set a pattern weight on here, and I'm going to cut this all out as one. So these two pieces are combined. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay, well, let's get the, I'm going to cut out my muslin, and I will meet you back in the sewing room, and we can assess the fit. Okay. I also just realized that I did not talk to you about how I picked my size. So when we go back to the pattern to make adjustments to it, I will go through why I picked the size that I did, because my measurements, yeah, we'll go through all of that when we go back to the cutting table. All right, so here are my jeans, and I actually sized down on these, and I'm really glad that I did, because I have got plenty of room, and I actually have quite a bit of room in my waist, which is abnormal for me. I thought the waist might be a little tight. Now, these sit right below your natural waist. So my, well, I would say the top of the waistband is probably like right at my natural waist. And looking at the pictures of the ladies on the front, that's probably about right. Okay, so we're gonna start at the top. I should have worn a different shirt. Let me tuck my shirt in. So I'm also not flashing too much skin. Okay. Well, I can't do that because then I can't show you how much I need to lose. Okay, we're going up under the bra. Okay. What I do for the channel. Okay, so we're going to start at the top. First things first, this is a common fit for a lot of women. This is a straight waistband on these pants. We're going to make it contoured. So I'm just going to very easily pinch out of the center back. I mean, I don't want it tight, but I want it, you know, against my body. And again, remember, we are going to be able to make adjustments to these as we sew them. So if I'm not sure that these are going to be quite tight enough. It's hard to do in the back. You know, through the hips, I may want to take them in just a wee bit, but let me back up a little bit more. So I may want to take them, I mean, they're a fuller leg, but I may want to take them in just a wee bit on down. This is all part of, I don't have the fly on here. Okay, the other thing I noticed when I'm standing here is I have a lot of extra folds right here. This is excess fabric. Now, I get this all the time. In fact, I almost always just go ahead and alter a pattern for this, but basically I have too much that extension, there's Gidget, the extension in the front and the back where it extends out is too long for me. My hips are set very in on my body, not further out like most people. So I often have to remove some fabric there. So that is one thing I'm going to note and I'm going to do, and that will fix, you know, the pooling. Yeah, I mean, if I were to, honestly, if I were just to sew about 3/8 of an inch in just through that area of the crotch, it would fix the issue. All right, as far as the crotch length, I mean, it's down below my body a little bit, enough that I think is just gonna be comfortable, so I'm not gonna adjust the length at all, which is pretty typical for me. I feel like it's fitting very well in the back. Oops, we're caught. Very well in the back. I'm very happy with the fit there. The length is comical on me. I'll show it to you. Excuse me, Gidget. Excuse her. The length is comical on me. I am going to show you a tip though. Instead of pinning up from the bottom up, go right below your knee and kind of fold things up, because that's where the lengthen and shorten line is. And you can get a little bit better idea if you want to adjust the width of the leg or anything like that. So if you just kind of fold it up on itself, which I think once I lose my inch, my inch for my hem, that's gonna hit, that will not be dragging the ground. I think that will be just about perfect. And I want them to be touching the ground since it's a wider leg. So yeah, once I've lost my hem allowance, I think that'll be pretty good. Okay, so those are the only adjustments I'm making on my pants. I'm just going to do a contoured waistband, so I'm just gonna take a pinch out of that. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to take a scoop out of the front of the pant just because I've got a lot of extra fabric. And it's not, I mean, sometimes you get that pooling when you need to adjust the rise, but I don't need to adjust the rise. It's right there underneath my body. Like, it feels good. It's just that little excess right in through there that needs to go away. Other than that, I think everything else, you know, if I want to take anything out of the sides, I can do that once the jeans are on my body, when we get to that point of the sewing process. So there you have it. So let's go back to the table and we will look at how I'm going to do the adjustments that I need, and I'm also going to talk you through how I picked my size, because it's nowhere close to where the pattern tells me the size the pattern tells me. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so the pieces that I need to have altered are just the waistband piece, and I don't need to mess with the yoke at all because I'm going to go down to nothing on that, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So I need my waistband piece. I do need my front and my back both to adjust this crotch issue, and then also for the hem. But first I need to measure my muslin to find out what I need to take away. So again, I just folded this up on itself to determine how much I wanted to take off. So how I find what I need completely, so you're just going to take your, oh my gosh, ruler, and I'm just going to stick it into that fold. And it comes at this point to 2.5. Now remember, you're going to be doubling it. So this is 2.5 down and 2.5 back up. So that's 5 inches. That is a lot. But I'm going to make sure, measure in a couple places. See there, it's 2.25. So I put in a couple of pins. And that's right at 2. Okay, so what are we going to do? I think 5 inches sounds like a lot to me, so I'm just going to take 4 inches out of the length of the pattern. If we have to shorten it a little bit, we'll just shorten it from the hem at that point. I don't want to take too much off because then I'll just have high waters because these aren't supposed to be cropped pants. Okay, and then back here, let's see, from the edge of that, it's about, 3/4. Make sure it's about the same. Yeah, 3/4. So I'm losing from this, 3/4 times 3/4 or plus 3/4 is 1.5 inches from the top down to nothing. So I'm going to show you how to do that. In fact, let's do that one first. Put this out of the way, move my pins. Okay. So our waistband. Now, this waistband piece gets folded on itself. That's how that is constructed. Basically, what we're wanting to do is we're going to be making a curved waistband. So I want to mark in my seam allowance, which is 5/8 of an inch. I'm basically going to end up having to redraft this whole thing because we're going to have to cut this apart and double it. Okay, so this is the part that's up at my body. And basically I'm taking 3/4 of an inch. We're doing a dart, basically. 3/4 of an inch out of, from either side of center back. And we want to take that to nothing by the seam allowance. So we're taking a wedge. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to cut this waistband piece in half, and we're just going to do, because since we've basically turned this from a rectangle into a contoured waist, which is just going to hug the body a little better. And if you have a really big waist to hip ratio, a contoured waistband is your best friend. Typically I can get away with straight waistbands, but... So what we're going to do is I'm going to, we're going to add seam allowance back onto the top of this. And when we cut this out of fashion fabric, we're going to cut 2 instead of 1. But I think I cut off the half that's got here. I'm also going to do this. This has my notches on this half. So I'm just going to put center back to center back. Let's do it this way. Okay, I am filming, and I think you guys all just heard my daughter screaming upstairs. Okay, so I'm just going to, I'm probably out of I'm marking the notches. They just got cut off because I want those notches, center back, and there should just be 2. Right here and right here. And then this is center front for size 12, and that's still on that piece, so that's okay. All right. So we have that kind of information that we need. So what I'm going to do is cut up through center back just to that seam allowance line. And then I'm going to cut one side of my dart that I kind of created. And then that's going to swing closed. Now, obviously, this is a very severe curve, so we don't need it to be quite that severe, because that's a funny looking waistband. So what we're going to do is gently scoop that to make it a little bit gentler of a curve. And again, this is a very weird adjustment for me to have to make. All right, just lay it on some paper. We already have our seam allowance on the bottom edge here. And I cut off my grain line. I mean, grain line is going to basically be perpendicular through here, I think. So I'm just going to tape this down. I may be out of frame here at the very end. So I'm just taping things down, smoothing out the pattern piece as I do that. All right, so then this is where, if you watched my notions video, this is where this comes in super handy. Just gonna kind of do a more pleasing curve there. And then what we want, we still haven't added our seam allowance in. So this is what, a 2-inch? Why can't it be a straight 2-inch? It's like 2 1/8. So I'm just going to do Okay, just like that. And I'm gonna mark center back, which is right here. Right here. And then if we make a line there, our grain line is gonna be perpendicular to that. So now what I need to do is just add the, oh, hold on. That didn't work right, did it? Because, well, it would. We need to add our seam allowance in up here. Which then makes like a 2 3/4 inch wide. Okay, and it just needs to be added to that top edge since we cut that apart. So instead of having a waistband on a seam, we are going to have two. I just want to make sure that I am, yep, that's good. Okay, just wanted to make sure that this was all equal. And we can move our notches up to the outside to the cut edge. And you can connect the dots here. Okay. So I'm going to cut along this burgundy line on both the top, and then there is my new waistband, which is quite a curved waistband. In all honesty, if we were doing this probably really correctly, you would probably want to take, you know, like maybe less out of center back and then take a little out of other areas as well to make it a gentler curve. But to be honest, I really just needed it out of the center of my back. So I'm thinking that this is going to fit me probably really well. So if you're noticing that you have a lot of looseness across the whole part of your back, you may want to split up that whole amount that you pinch out of center back into a couple of areas and just keep, you know, making the dart, nothing at the side seam, and then just keep closing that, and it will make it a little bit more gentler curve. So just kind of keep that in mind as you do that. Okay, so now I can cut this out, and that will be my new waistband piece. So I'm going to set this aside. Okay, before we go any further, well, here, let me show you the rest of the adjustments, and then we're going to talk about how I picked my size. All right, so the next thing I needed to do is just lose some length and then adjust my inseam. So for one thing, we've got our lengthen and shorten line here. I am just going to find where I've put my ruler here. This is the back piece that I'm working on right now. I'm just going to go I'm going to remove 4 inches. I had 5 in some areas. I don't want to remove too much, so I'm just going to do 2 below and 2 above that lengthen and shorten line. Now, if this were a more fitted pant, I might want to take length in a couple of places so that it's not, I have full calves. And so sometimes if I take everything out, you know, right here, this is too tight to fit over my calf, where it pulls on my body. So sometimes it's better for me to take a little chunk up here and then the rest of it down low. So what am I doing here? All right, so I've cut it there. So we're just going to match our lines. So yeah, I'm removing 4 inches. That's a lot. so I've done that, and then here, I'm also actually going to measure that inseam. Actually, this is the seam allowance here. Oh, sorry. Gosh, that seems a little short. I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to show you actually a little trick. If you've ever taped down your pattern piece and you want to move it, if you take a seam ripper and just put it there and very carefully put the ball on the inside, you can rip that tape. I think I'm only going to do 3 inches. Kind of pull that up. And it wants to behave. And you may rip the paper a little bit, but I'm going to add back 1.5 inches just to be on the safe side. I mean, I know that I pinned it up, and I actually pinned up 5 inches in a couple of places, but I do want to err on the side of too long rather than too short. So I'm just going to go up 1.5 inches here. So I'm only taking out, so when I do the front, I'm only going 1/2 inch below the lengthen and shorten line and 2 above. So that may be a little long on me, but I can just take the length out before I hem them. Okay, I feel better about that. Nothing worse than too short jeans. Nothing worse than too long jeans either, but it's much easier to fix. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to remove. So this is what fixes that excess in between, kind of there at the front crotch. I remove 3/8 of an inch. You really don't have to remove much. I take out, this always works, 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to go to nothing by that notch. And just cut that away. Okay, there's the back piece. I'm going to put this one away because we're going to talk about the size and the front side. All right, so the same thing for the front. I ended up with 1/2 inch below the lengthen and shorten line. And then 2 above it. So 2.5 inches gone total. So we can cut that. Retape it. Okay, so there is the length removed, and then again, we're going to come up here, take out that 3/8 of an inch here at the inseam, and then take it to nothing by that notch. Alrighty, and my pattern is now ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about sizes for a second. Let me go get the pattern and I'll be right back. Okay, so as far as sizes, if you look at the back of the pattern where it says your body measurements, my measurements are, I have a 32-inch waist, which puts me in between a 16 and an 18, and I have a 38.5-inch hip, which puts me between a little bit bigger than a 14. Now, when making your jeans, no matter your waist size, I would recommend picking your pattern based on your hip. If you have a big difference between your waist and your hip, usually if your waist is smaller, quite a bit smaller than your hip, you're probably going to want to grade between sizes. But with Big 4 patterns, I always recommend looking at your finished measurements, and they are written right here on the pattern. There's no waist measurement. I measured the waistband to see if I needed to adjust it. It turns out I needed to make it smaller. So I'm looking here at the finished measurements. And so if you looked at my hip measurement, which is 38.5, I would go down, if I went down in size to a 14, that gives me a finished hip measurement of 41.5. That is a lot of ease for the hip of a jean. I don't like to go with unless it's like a baggy palazzo pant, I don't like to have more than 2 inches of ease in my hip, which would be a 40.5. And that's for like a trouser where I don't want things to pull. Jeans, I like them a little tighter because that's just the nature of denim. You want it to kind of form your body, especially if you have stretch in it. I mean, I don't think that I want some positive ease, but not much. Like an inch is probably all I need, which puts me at a 12, which is 39.5-inch ease at the hip, which is an inch more than what I've got. And that's what I made, and I think that's perfect. But if you look at the size chart, that's for a 36-inch hip. I have a 38. My hip is 38 or 2.5 inches bigger than that. And then it puts me at a 26.5-inch waist, which is the size waist my daughter has. And I am well above that. I am like 5 inches above that, 4, 5, almost 6 inches bigger than that. But as you can see, I'm actually having to take the waistband in a little bit. Now this is below the natural waist, which where most people start to get a little larger, and usually I can get away with a smaller size because my body doesn't get larger underneath my waist. It's pretty straight. But yeah, go off of the finished measurements as opposed to your body measurements. And I know that makes it hard to buy patterns some of the time, but you can kind of get, I mean, I'm pretty much always a size 14 in the Big 4. I have lost some weight, which has put me down. And I do want these a little bit tighter. You know, if this was a trouser, if I were making this out of a wool, I would probably stick with the 14 because I would want to err on the side of a little bit more ease. But because it's a denim that I want to really hug me, and definitely if I had something with stretch, I would want to be closer to my own hip measurement. So that is how I picked and did the size 12. I did a straight size 12 for myself, thinking that I might have to adjust the waist to be a little bit bigger just because that is my body, but I didn't. In fact, I had to take a whole 1.5 inches out of the waist at the center back. So yeah, keep that in mind. Okay, that is all that I have for now. I will see you guys next week when we've got everything cut out. Again, I'm going to cut out my front with that fly piece attached to it, and we'll go over that at the beginning of next week. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.